Palestinian migration to Australia. Palestine was located in the Middle East, but unfortunately has been invaded by Israel over time and no longer exists. Waves of migration had begun in 1967 due to the Arab-Israel War, then in Lebanon in the 1970s and 1980s. Palestinians migrated due to wars, lack of resources, their families had moved, health, seeking a better lifestyle, escaping economic hardship, and religious or political persecution. Around this time, Australia had accepted over 3 million immigrants and the White Australia policy was abolished. Palestinians came later than many other immigrants as the majority came to Australia in 1970s. Most policies were not in place any longer at that time. There weren't many problems that Palestinians had to face. The only problems would have been if they were a legitimate refugee or not. Australia has been basically built off of other countries' settlements, and it has been recognised that migrants have and still are contributing to Australia's society. Cultural diversity is one of the greatest benefits of immigration to Australia. Whoever seeks refuge in our nation brings new technology, skills, new businesses, understanding, and new connections for us all. Different cultures in Australia is an economic force as it brings business and it is amazing for the community. Australia prides itself with all the different cuisines and festivals from other cultures that are now a staple to Australia, and without immigrants, this would not be possible. People from the Middle East are an important part of Australia's economy as they run so many small businesses and large companies which keep Australia afloat. Many migrants are property owners, doctors, and researchers. Since migration of people from the Middle East commenced in Australia, they have integrated themselves into Australia's economy and have made themselves an essential part of Australia today. This is a photograph of a typical couple migrating from Palestine to Australia, seeking any type of help they can to start their new life in a new country. This map shows the typical routes which refugees would take before coming to Australia, as many needed to take a pit stop along the way. Statistic.
In 1948, the attack on Palestine had started and had already made a big impact on their lives. Most of the population had fled their homes. As seen in the map before, Palestinians took different routes out of the country. My tete, who was a Palestinian refugee now living in Australia, was forced out of her home by soldiers. Most Palestinians thought they would be able to return back home in a maximum of a week's time, when the fighting would have stopped. As many Palestinians left walking to other countries with the bare minimum supplies to live, they were faced with many hardships. As many of them left everything at home, including their cars, they had to walk to another country's border. My tete had walked to the Lebanon border with her family, most of them being only little, which made the experience even harder. My great-grandmother was very scared at the time. I was told she faced extreme anxiety, and my great-grandfather had to try and stay as strong as he could with 7 children to take care of. Most of the village that they lived in travelled with them, but as well not bringing many supplies. They camped out at the border, and some of the people travelling had died because of the injury wounds and the conditions of their lifestyle. After realising that they could not return home, they had entered a refugee camp, and most of the people there did not go to school and had just started working. My grandmother, as an example, had married to my jiddo and he had come to Australia for work and then had sponsored my family to come over on a visa. Here is a primary source of a Palestinian passport that they had used to travel from countries to show them that they were a legitimate refugee. This passport was under British mandated Palestine. Some countries did not accept refugees from Middle Eastern countries as they thought they might have been a risk for their own country. As a wrap-up, Palestinians migrated for the right of freedom and safety. This secondary source states who the war is between, which is sadly one of the world's most powerful and funded military against Indigenous Palestinians.